decided to live the nomadic life. As you know, Carolyn and I have already tried it. We traveled the country for 3 years. We felt like we were kind of like really nomads. A lot of the so-called nomads never left the desert states, is the best way to put it. The biggest ones, as a matter of fact, never left it, or very rarely, I should say, left the desert states. They were always in Arizona, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, that area. Well, Carolyn and I, we traveled all over. As a matter of fact, we started by going southeast. So we were in Missouri. Well, our test run, we went to Tennessee, Mississippi, and then down to Florida. And then we went on our actual trip. And I think, again, we went down to Mississippi, over to Tennessee, up to the Virginia, West Virginia, back down to South Carolina. Well, that's not desert. As a matter of fact, much of it looked similar to this. Remember, there was a hurricane. We were supposed to leave West Virginia at Hawk Campground, Thomas Jefferson National Forest, I think it was. It was in West Virginia. And there was a hurricane, so we were going to head south. But this hurricane, they were talking about coming up the East Coast. So we were kind of worried, we were in a pop-up camper at the time, that we were going to get stuck in the middle of this hurricane. So we asked the forest ranger guy, he wasn't actually the forest ranger, but kind of like the forest maintenance man, if we could extend our stay for a couple of weeks, and he allowed us to do that. And then we went on down to South Carolina, and then down into Florida, and we stayed the winter in Florida. At that time, the pop-up camper got burned down. Some loony nomad, and he was literally a nomad. Of course, he nomad pretty much in the southeast states, primarily Florida, but Georgia. We actually met him on our test run, the first time we ever met him. And then a year later, we met him again. Oh, he was insane, just nuts. And he burned down our camper because he felt like we were getting preferential treatment over him. He had a grudge against the national forces, so he thought we were campsite hosts, and so in order to take it out against the national forest people, he burned down our camper. They never did arrest him, I don't think. So then we built the truck camper, and there was a lot of people that disagreed with the truck camper. I mean, a lot of people. Everybody thought we were doing it wrong, and it's still here. Now, of course, this is going to be the last year that it stands erect. Carol and I were just talking about that this morning, that we were going to tear it down. It's done its job, and it did it really well. We built it in Florida, and as soon as we left Florida, I guess we camped at 2 different campgrounds in Florida, and as soon as we left Florida, we went to Mississippi, and we got tied up in a tornado while we were traveling. It was the scariest thing I think I've ever been through. And I just knew that camper was just going to rip off the back of the truck. It was so bad that we were following some people, and we were out in the middle of the country road. It was terrible, no place to hide, nothing. I mean, it was just luck that we didn't die. People started flashing their lights at us, so we stopped, and they said, "Trees down up there. You can't go any further." So then we turned around and we followed this pickup, and we got down a road a little ways again, and another tree was down. Now, he took his truck and some small twine, and he was able to pull that tree off the road several times. I mean, the twine kept breaking, but he just kept at it, and was able to get us to go around it. And then I asked another driver, saying, "We got to get to such and such place." And he said, "Well, follow me, and I'll point you in the direction where I'm going to turn one way, and you're going to go the other way, and I'll take you where you want to go." So we followed him, and another tree was down. It was just terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Well, there was a couple kids on the other side of the tree. He says, "I got chainsaw back at the house. I'm going to go get it, and we'll cut this tree up." And he did. He ran home, got this chainsaw, brought it back, and within minutes, this kid couldn't have been 18, 19 years old, 17 maybe, and he had that tree just whipped up in shape, and it was incredible. And then we went off to Texas. Oh, maybe we stayed in Mississippi. Again, doesn't matter. I know we stayed in Mississippi, but doesn't matter. I can't remember the sequence of things. So we ended up going to Texas, and I think I've missed it a lot. We went to South Dakota, but again, South Dakota did have a lot of sun. We were at just outside the Badlands National Park. We were in the National Grasslands, and we could stay there for free. It was beautiful, and there was no trees. It was all sun. So that was similar to like being in the desert. But eventually, regardless of the sequence of things, we ended up going to Arizona area. So we went to New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, never did go to Nevada. Went to Coconino National Forest, went to North Rim, outside the national park. We were in the national forest. I think it's called KNAB or something like that. Now, Carolyn and I, it's hard to explain. We miss a lot of aspects of it. We hated a lot of aspects of it, but we missed a lot of aspects of it. And I think there was two things that really made us hate it a lot. One, I had to have a YouTube channel. We had to make money, and YouTube was the way to do it. At the time, I also had a little business I was running, helping people with a database I built. Long story, don't want to get into that again. But so I was running two businesses. Both of them required internet. Just had to have it. So going deep in the national forest, some places, it was just not possible. To do it again, we'd have to figure out a way to get rid of internet. It's just the only way to do it. So like if we wanted entertainment, I think what we would have to do, I've never used one of those red boxes, but you can go outside Dollar General, they got the red boxes where you can rent movies. I think that's what we would have to do, is get like a DVD player. That way if we wanted to get away from internet, we still have entertainment. We like our evening movies. Again, I don't know how long you keep those red boxes, maybe 2 weeks, but let's just say it's a few days. If we pull a camper, we could actually drive around, which was really nice with the pop-up camper. We could leave the camper in one spot and then drive around without the camper, just leave it as a campsite. But then we got nervous after the camper got burned up, so we had the truck camper, so we didn't go anywhere then. We were always stuck in the national forest because it cost so much to move the camper. You're using a lot of gas. Plus you'd have to pack everything up, whereas if you had the camper, not the truck camper, but the actual camper, you didn't have to pack up your entire campsite to leave. There was just disadvantages with both of it. Safety was a big concern. And people will say, well, safety is a problem everywhere you go. Nah, not really. There's no safety issues here. I don't have one concern here. The biggest concern I have is my YouTube audience. Other than that, I don't have any concerns. But out in the national forest, you always had to be concerned because there were always crazies out there. It's hard to admit what it is, but the homeless live out there. And they're homeless for different reasons. Mental illness, drug addiction. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some people who just lost their job. Things went bad. But a lot of them are out there because they just don't know how to function. It's easier to steal for them. It may be easier to do things. I mean, the guy who burned down our camper, he was definitely, there were some mental issues with him. The first time we met him when we were on our test run, seemed like the nicest guy the first day, but the next day he was packing up, and it was like he was mad at us because his camper wasn't working, his generator wasn't, I mean, he was just irate. I remember one time we were down in the same campground actually, a couple of years later. There was a guy camping next to us, and it was obvious he was homeless. He was living in his SUV. I mean, at night his feet would stick out, so if it rained, I mean, everything inside was going to get wet. And he was upset that we were running the generator. Now, the generator the noise wasn't his problem. It was these imaginary flies that was his problem. And he was walking up and down the road, just swatting at these flies with like a newspaper or a hat or something. Quite terrifying. So we actually packed up and left. It was pretty bad. When we got to Coconino National Forest there at Flagstaff, Carolyn and I decided we were going to pack up and we were going to live off-grid. We liked the off-grid aspect of things, getting away from people. That was the whole reason we went out to the National Forest, was trying to get away from people. So now we're here, and boy, I tell you, we just love it. We set things up so we could do everything ourselves. I built a tiny house by myself. Carolyn helped with one wall and she helped me put the shower together. But beyond that, the whole thing was done by myself. We started the chickens, so now we have food. We keep running into problems each year. We would like to have enough food from the chickens that we don't have to go grocery shopping anymore. We're getting close, but like I said, we always have a problem each year. Last November, a dog got a hold of our chickens and killed, 13 of them? Kind of pushed us out. And then the rooster broke his foot, so we had to put him down. So then we bought another rooster, but he wasn't mature enough to breed with the chickens this last spring. So, just one thing after another. So hopefully we can get enough chickens that we can pretty much be independent, don't even have to go out shopping. Then of course we got the solar panels. And the solar panels have always been a little bit of a struggle with me since we got here. It's just something I haven't really focused on because we were so busy doing other things. But this year I really got to take a focus on it, really look at them, see what was going on. And because Carolyn's son came here and we bought that camper, and so he could stay in it, but we had to get him enough electricity so he could run his Xbox and TV, and then also run the air conditioner. Well, by the time we got it all running really good, the solar panels, he moved, but now we don't have any problems with electricity. We're running the well pump with the solar panels. It's just, we're making more energy than what we know what to do with most days. Even on cloudy days, I think all but one cloudy day, we've been able to produce enough electric to get us through the evening to run that freezer. Which brings me kind of to the point of this video. One of the things that I get all the time, because a large portion of my audience are nomads, I don't know if they've just stayed with me since I was a nomadic channel, or if I'm gained new ones. I think I've gained a lot of new ones. We chose not to have solar panels, and there's several reasons for that. The first reason is we were worried about weight. We have a little 4-cylinder pickup truck, and weight was a big deal. So even with the pop-up camper, but I'm going to be more select and just talk about the truck camper, because we could have gotten solar panels with the truck camper. The solar panels weigh 15 pounds each. We could have gotten 6 solar panels on top of the truck camper. That would have given us 90 pounds. Now, I know people seem to think that's not a lot of weight. That's not too bad, but it actually is an incredible amount of weight, because we had to make concessions. We had to figure out what we wanted to carry, what we didn't want to carry. I mean, think about it. 30 pounds of food, 30 days of food in the refrigerator. That's extra weight that we had to carry to go to the next campsite. But so we had 90 pounds of solar panels. We also had to have a generator. Why do you need a generator? You got solar panels. Well, because we were actual nomads. We weren't desert people. We wanted to travel. And there were many times, you can go back and look at my videos, we were parked in campsites just like this. You're not going to get solar panels to work. Oh, at least you'll get a little bit of electric. Okay, I agree with that. It's fine. We'll get a little bit of electric. But we still have to run the generator. Well, the generator, the old one, I think was 50 pounds. Plus the gasoline. I don't know what gasoline is, but let's just call it 70 pounds. Water is like 8 pounds a gallon. So we're carrying 10 gallons. So that's 70 pounds. Now, that was before dual fuel generators were real popular. I think nowadays I would have actually ran propane instead of gasoline on that generator, although it ran a little fast. I don't know. So you got 40 pounds of gasoline, plus you needed propane. You had to have propane for cooking and different things. And then you had to have water. Water was the biggest problem. Water was the biggest weight. We carried 40 gallons. So what is that, 240 gallons? Plus the camper. The camper was 200 pounds, plus us, plus the battery, plus everything. So you add all this up, and we were actually overweight. I tried very hard not to get overweight, but we were actually overweight just by adding everything up. Now, you'll watch nomad channels, and they always, all of them, have the same mechanical problem. Every nomad that has a mechanical problem has the same exact mechanical problem. Transmissions go out. Well, why are the transmissions going out? And the simple reason is because they're overweight. They heat up, and they don't monitor the transmission temperatures. I always monitor our transmission temperature. I got a gauge in the truck. I always monitored it. I knew exactly when it was overheating. So you got to be careful. You got to be able to pull over. But the biggest reason they're overheating is because they're overweight. You got to read your owner's manual. The owner's manual will tell you, you can actually Google it nowadays, how much weight your truck can pull and how much weight your truck can have on it. And people just violate it all the time. I mean, they would be overweight just by building in it, you know, van build, and they'd put all these 2x4s in it and bed and a bed frame, and by the time they decided they were going to put some water in it, they were already overweight. And so then they loaded up with all the things they wanted to live with, and it would burn up the transmission. So solar panels just weren't an option for us while we were traveling, which is one of the things people keep asking, why didn't we do it? Why are we doing it now? I feel like I have quite a bit of experience with solar panels. When I was in 5th grade, I actually made a solar, for the science fair, a solar light bulb setup. I made the light bulb. It wasn't that fancy. It was just a piece of metal inside a piece of glass with a cork and two nails. Then I wired it up to a solar panel. Now, I know it's silly. Why would you run a light bulb with a solar panel? It's already daylight. But it was just a science experiment to show that you can run items off a solar panel. And so ever since then, I've had a fascination with solar panels. My dad bought me a 101 electronics set. It's the coolest thing in the world. It had a solar panel, just a little solar cell on it. And then I've told you about the story about 2005. I actually made my own solar panel. I used solar cells. I mean, that was a disaster, but I did it. And had my own solar panels. It was not a very big set, but I had them back before they were popular. So yeah, I would have loved to have solar panels while we were traveling. It just wasn't in the cards. So now I'm here. You really got to think about the application that you want to use solar panels for. Using solar panels down here just isn't going to work. So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about code enforcement, condemning our house. So if I can inspire you to really think through your adventure so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.